Hello folks, Min-Max Munchkin finally back with an update video for an old character I dubbed Herald of Hlal. This is the only character I played all the way to level 20 so far in one of the online West Marches servers. A lot of what I'll be talking about in this video is based on my own experiences playing this lovely Dragonborn Paladin Bard Prankster. So, for the sake of all cheesy puns and dad jokes, make sure you vicious mockery those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons down below and make YouTube algorithms headaches so painful it has no choice but to show you all of my future videos. As a Dragonborn following the ways of the trickster draconic deity called Hlal, this character does lack the dark vision trait, therefore an argument can be made to pick the Ravenite Dragonborn variant from the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount because it has dark vision, but in my opinion base Dragonborn's charisma bonus is most likely still better in the long run. Other charisma races such as half-elves, tieflings or tritons that have dark vision are all perfectly viable alternatives from the mechanical standpoint as well. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which comes out in November 2020, will make all of these limitations largely obsolete, as you will be able to mix and match the racial ability bonuses to your own liking. So, when that book hits the shelves, I'd probably strongly consider Ravenite Dragonborn for this character, assuming your DM allows all the new official content. A fully min-max point-buy spread makes the most sense to me because you need strength for melee combat, you need constitution for hit points and maintaining concentration on spells, and finally obviously you need charisma for your bard spells as well as charisma based skills. Acolyte background fits the flavor and theme of this character the most, but Azorius Functionary or Orzhov Representative might be a better mechanical choice for those counter spells and Spirit Guardian spells that get added to your list if you are lucky to have a DM who allows you to power game all the way through. The character plays a bit differently at lower and higher levels, or at least that's how I played it personally. Once you grab that second level of Paladin, there's no reason to go further in. Instead, you immediately switch to Bard to get an immediate boost in both the number and the level of spell slots for your Divine Smites. This divinely enhanced melee damage is further improved once you hit character level 5, because then you can pick a College of Swords Bard subclass for those amazing Blade Flourishes. These Blade Flourishes use your core class Bardic Inspiration feature, which further improves at character level 7, because it becomes short rest rather than long rest dependent. Defensive Flourish is the best one overall for somewhat random but always high armor class. You will need it, trust me, because you have to be in melee to dump those high level Divine Smites. Mobile can be clutch too if you can push an enemy over the edge and make it fall down a deep chasm or a long flight of stairs, or maybe you just wanna move away from it. I didn't use slashing that often, but it can be amazing if you get surrounded by multiple enemies as a free way to dump out a bit of extra damage, especially if you land a critical hit. Fighting style isn't that consequential, or at least I didn't find it to be. I picked 2-weapon fighting because I was wielding 2 scimitars at the beginning of this character, but defensive could easily be a better long-term investment because you will inevitably get more options, namely spells, to spend your bonus action on higher levels, so you will be using that bonus action for other things instead of making attack rolls. Once you hit level 8 though, you get extra attack feature, making your martial progress more or less complete at that point. This leaves 12 more levels to improve your spellcasting. Obviously as a bard you have a myriad of awesome spells on your list, many of which require concentration. That's why you need to grab the resilient feat and put it towards constitution. This will both increase your hit points and improve your concentration saves. And to even out that other odd score, 17 in strength, I think Dragon Fear makes the most sense, because scaring off a gang of goblins or a pack of gnolls is always a hilarious sight to see. Still, spells remain the most powerful tools and options once you get into the double-digit levels territory. That's the main reason why I cut the paladin levels from 4 to 2. It speeds up your bardic spellcasting progression and allows you to learn 9th level spells eventually, as well as grabbing the last batch of magical secrets. Now, here's a list of spells I would consider with this character. I won't go over each and every one of them to avoid making this video half an hour long, but let me quickly point out some of the spell choice changes I made to this character. Lower level spells are more or less the same, but as soon as you get the chance to learn level 4 bard spells, I would consider greater invisibility instead of confusion. I used it a lot for a while. It does lose power at higher levels against higher challenge rating enemies because most of them have special senses that are able to perceive invisible creatures. You can always unlearn it at any point anyways, so it's worth it if you ask me. For level 5 bard spells I swapped Scrying and and mislead for animate objects and synaptic static, because I needed some sustained damage output to conserve my spell slots, as well as debuff control spell in synaptic static. However, your needs might be different, so definitely don't follow my advice word for word, especially if combat encounters aren't particularly challenging and don't really drain your resources too much. In terms of level 8 bard spells, I think glibness makes more sense than feeble mind. It's more consistent, useful, and makes your counter spells insanely powerful. But again, that just might be my anecdotal evidence and experience with this character, so your mileage may vary. For level 9 bard spells, True Polymorph is probably the best bang for the buck. I was regularly turning myself into Red Abishai, soaking a lot of damage and being a good team playing boy. Obviously, Magical Secrets feature significantly improves your already juicy spellcasting potential. At bard level 10 or character level 12, you get your first set, which I personally use to learn Counterspell and find Greater Steed. Now, from a purely optimization or power gaming perspective, Wall of Force is probably 10 times better than the Flying Pegasus. It's one of the most broken spells in the game. I mean, even Bigby's Hand could be more useful than the, Flying Mount, but Flying Mount was more of a roleplay choice for me, so pick whatever you think makes the most sense in your own case. Level 14 batch is much more straightforward. Simulacrum is only bad if you don't have enough gold to keep it running. In every other case, it's really a no-brainer. Unlike my first video about this character, I will now recommend Crown of Stars, if nothing but for pure consistency. You can simply use it way more often than Reverse Gravity. However, I won't deny Reverse Gravity can sometimes, if the circumstances are in your favor, be super devastating against enemies and pretty hilarious on its own. And I mean, you are in this for hilariousness and jokes and fun times, right? But again, Crown of Stars is pretty good regardless. Level 18 magical secrets are probably the easiest set of magical secrets if you ask me. First, you pick Wish because it's the most powerful spell in the game, and then you pretty much ignore all the other level 9 spells that you can take and instead pick Maze. Yes, it's an 8 level spell, but if you ask me, it's the best timeout button option in the game. There's no save associated with it. Instead, it is an intelligence ability check, which an enemy has to spend its action to make. So the enemy immediately gets shunted to a labyrinth in some demiplane, and unless you're fighting another jack of all trades bard, the enemy only adds its raw ability modifier to that intelligence ability check for a very high DC of 20. With the Paladin 2 Bard 18 split, you do lose out on one ability score improvement. With 2 needed for feats, this leaves out the other 2 for maxed out charisma score, which is what really matters at high levels anyway. You can manage just fine with 18 in strength, especially if the DM gives you some magic items. I had a bunch of magic items on this character myself, so let me simply recommend some of them. Scimitar of Speed, for instance, which is a +2 weapon that allows you to attack with the bonus action, is probably the main reason to go for dueling fighting style instead of 2-weapon fighting style, again, if the DM is willing to give you this item. Belt of Dwarvenkind was particularly useful because it further increased my hit points and gave me that 60 feet of dark vision, which every character that doesn't have dark vision usually suffers for it, right? I will not go whether into Dragonborn can grow beards, but that's a question you need to discuss with your DM. As a bard, any instrument of the bard's item is worth attuning to. I personally had the Foklukan Bendore, which I probably butchered the pronunciation of, but anyhow, I got this at a rather low level, so I was casting Fly, Protection from Evil and Good, and Invisibility from it very often actually. Obviously, any kind of a +1 or higher plate armor or even shield makes sense too. You're a heavy armor abuser, you're out there in the front line making melee attacks, so you need high armor class. So the easier time you will be staying in melee with higher armor class, the better, right? For those sweet divine smites. Damage wise, this character doesn't really have super cray numbers compared to some of my other murder hobos I talked about on this channel, but you can still do well over 100 Nova damage at level 20. You probably won't be doing it though, because some of your non-damage spells that require actions to cast can often produce much more consequential and impactful and beneficial results for you and your party, but it's good to know that if everything else fails, you can always rely on some good old big dick damage, right? Progression is relatively straightforward. 2 levels of Paladin first for that heavy armor proficiency and divine smites, followed by however many swords bard levels you can get before the DM announces the end of the campaign, or, well, decides to TPK you out of frustration or something, I don't know. Roleplay can be quite rich and rewarding with this character too. As a follower of Hlal, a goddess of humor, inventiveness and pleasure, you're one of the few rare religious dragonborn out there there. I personally took a bit darker path because, well, let me just say that my version of this character had a lot of traumatic experiences and events happening over the course of its adventuring career, but in essence this is supposed to be a cheerful, bubbly guy full of life, excitement, silly jokes, and just all around life of the party energy. As such, you should be a positive force at a table, not just in terms of numbers and spells and mechanics and stuff that you can do in and out of combat, but whenever you get some downtime and a chance to drop some puns and dad jokes around for everyone to facepalm at. After all, most of us play for those silly moments anyway, and this fella is almost perfect for that purpose. As you can see me scrolling through it on the screen, I updated the old Word file with a bunch of new information, went a bit more into detail about some things, and did my best to clarify potentially confusing or contradicting information. If you would like to download this file, head on over to my Patreon page and pledge into the Magical Secrets tier. No pun intended whatsoever. No, for real, that's actually what the Patreon tier is called. So anyway, it's not mandatory, it's 100% optional, especially in these troubled, globally challenging economic times, but if any time in the future you find the Patreon perks worth the trouble, worth your time and worth your money, consider supporting my efforts there. Special shout out goes to all of my current patrons: Mike, Matthew, Ewing, BardlyManHardlyTrying, Rogor, Kaleron, SuburbanHell, Cory Clausen, Gary Kors, Brett Allen, Joel, C Alcazar, Mannozzi Stefano, Adekoya, Devin Jache, CrackedMask, Alexandre Audet, Francisco Martinez, Keilan, Udel 18, Russ Helms, Ted Reighard, Stephen Keezer, Devon Troeger, Orenduff, James Orenduff, Wesley Shick, Edgewalker, Jacob Netter, N7, Frostho, Keilan, Beverly, Jacob Salters, Wicked Redstone, Thomas Gardner, Char B, Burley Bjorn, Christopher Pistachio, Super Neil, AB Codes, The Undead Owl Goddess, Neko, Hector Monterrey, Nathaniel Besanceney, Toothandnail Rules, Sterling Garza, Todd, Alec Greenwood, John Gamma, Joy Fry, Devin Maher Cute, Georgios Kritsatakis, Harley Long, Iro Queen, Alex Duran, Elvis Young, Play Puma, Anthony Verdoni, Maximus S. Taylor Cook, William Yori, Kelly Golduk, Mad Mike Sean, Anthony Gunter, Tint White, Raven, Devon Windsor, Oren Clark, John Bush, Dynamite Studios, Justin Blankenship, Horse the Seller, Malav Trust the Chad, Brian Wolf, Jack Brown, Druak, Nato, Paul Cook, Marauder 2C, Jim Robert Bonilla, Jeff Tucker, D. Armada, Adam Holbrook, Cody Thorne, Vane, Richard M. Odegaard, R.J. Davidson, John Finnegan, Chris Gonzalez, Adam Alexander, Padre, Ryan Rosnick, Marcus Dixon, Daniel Contier, Sean Comrie, Gabriel Lopez, Aldo Abraham, Dan M., Jeff Mangalin, Daniel Brown, Spencer LeBute, Javier Ray Brooks, Havan Verrain, Zach Atkins, Mark Brugman, Daniel Emery, Duncan Tack, Bennett Kruger, Michael Hubbard, Brody, Josh DCB, Joshua Derek, Etozex, Christopher Lissos, Peter Pan, Rodrigo Alves, Ramos, Satish 29, Michael Bigley, Slayer, Dico Kilo, Alfonso Martinez, Lagares, Yuki Hidden, Andrew J. Black, Tosin Frag, White King Killer, Eric Stolks, Seran Kig, Micah Thomas, Lee Farrar, Johnson, Dylan, Rock and Roll, Joe Thomas, Hennessy. Thank you for your continued support. I probably butchered half of your names. I apologize for that, and if I missed everybody, I apologize for that too. I'll make sure you get many more videos like this one in the following weeks and months. There's many goodies, new characters coming up, more Baldur's Gate content as well. I will be streaming some more. I played a lot off stream, but I will catch up, don't worry about it. With everything said and done, MinMax Munchkin out. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Talk to you soon.